Welcome everybody to another gripping episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. That's right, today we're traveling back down to Oklahoma to speak about their deadliest prison altercation in history. 4 inmates killed in less than 2 minutes, all within the same pod, same cell block, whatever you like to call it. We're about to get into it, but first, as always, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Cimarron Correctional Facility is a medium security prison located 3 miles southwest of the city of Cushing. It's owned and operated by Core Civic, or formerly known as Corrections Corporation of America. The prison was built in 1997 and has a contracted capacity of 1,600 inmates. CCA has also imported prisoners from other detentional areas here. The Puerto Rico Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation agreed to send as many as 480 inmates to Cimarron to alleviate the overcrowded prisons on the island. The 3-year contract was ended prematurely in June 2013. After unit-wide fights and disruptive events, the inmates were sent back to Puerto Rico. In June 2015, a fight among inmates sent 11 of them to the hospital. The fight involved up to 300 people. In September 2015, another fight took the lives of 4 inmates, all stabbed to death, and left another 3 wounded. This was the worst such incident in state history. And that's what we're here to talk about today. But I wanted to bring those other events up because I'm probably be speaking about them in a future episode. On September 12, 2015, the prisoners at Cimarron Correctional Facility in Cushing began to band together for what would be called one of the deadliest prison fights in state history. A camera captured the fight inside the private prison just before 5 p.m. in a clash between the Irish mob and the Universal Aryan Brotherhood. Reports show that 24 inmates used homemade weapons to maim and kill one another. Inmates Christopher Tigner, Michael Maiden, Kyle Tiffey, and Anthony Fullwilder were killed in the assault. Alright, so let me just say this first and foremost, alright? We got the Irish mob and the Universal Aryan Brotherhood. Or some people are saying that it's the United Aryan Brotherhood. But I'm going to show you all some tattoos from this organization that definitely says Universal. But that's besides the point. I really want y'all to understand that I had no run-ins with any of these type of groups when I was in prison. I did my time in Virginia, yeah, it was about 7 years ago or so, but still, the white guys in there, they had low-key groups, I guess you could say. They weren't making no noise whatsoever, and from what I seen, they were just trying to survive. It doesn't mean that they're not there. Look, I used to see cats with swastikas all over their leg and on their eyelids and stuff like that. They're working out with the black guys. Eating, joking, playing. I know it sounds wild, but I'm not playing. I'm dead serious, man. These guys, man, they ain't have no kind of racial issues with anybody because they would have gotten destroyed. The number one prison gang that I seen when I was locked up was the Bloods, and they were treacherous. If they weren't taking out some other group, they were taking out their own. A lot of false flagging individuals pop into the prison. Next thing you know, they're leaving the prison just as soon as they got there, going straight to the outside medical unit. So when I was doing time in prison, it's a very different lifestyle from what I'm reading here today. Now, before we get into more details about the 4 inmates that lost their life, allow me to read something that I found based upon these 2 organizations and how maybe possibly they came about in Oklahoma. It says here that a collective of individuals calling themselves the Irish Mob apparently began as a Tulsa, Oklahoma street gang, which later expanded into a minor prison gang, primarily based in prison in the state of Oklahoma and across the southern Great Plains of the United States. It's apparently a minor rival of the larger Aryan Brotherhood, and it consists of almost exclusively white prisoners and ex-cons. While it uses symbols of ethnic Irish identity, such as the Shamrock and Celtic Cross, its membership also includes white Americans who are not of ethnic Irish descent, as well as a few European immigrants who have been recruited within the prisons. It has no historical ties to the larger ethnic Irish crime groups based in Midwest and northeastern cities, and it seems to be more of a loose confederation of an individual and an organized criminal gang. Now, this could be a topic up for debate. You know, a lot of these articles speaking about organizations can be wrong at times. So if anybody out there's been locked up in Oklahoma, then by all means, if you heard anything wrong from what I read or like to add on to it, then let us know in the comment section below. But let's move over to the Universal Aryan Brotherhood, which happens to be rivals with the Irish mob in the prison system, or at least at the time of this deadly fight. The Universal Aryan Brotherhood, UAB, is a white supremacist prison gang based in the Oklahoma prison system. One of several such gangs that have used the word brotherhood in their title. Despite the gang's name, it has no connection to the original Aryan Brotherhood, which is based in the California federal prison systems. The main UAB symbol consists of a circle, in which two of the halves of each S barely touch each other. Members also refer to themselves as Universal Soldiers. And I'm looking at the list here of all the other prison gangs that use the word brotherhood in it, and the list goes on and on. Every state, it seems like they have a different type of Aryan Brotherhood. What's wild to me is that every last one of these individuals will probably they got put into a certain prison with the real guys. But the same goes for many other organizations. Blood, Crips, GDs, Latin Kings, I mean, you name it. You go to a different state, chances are you're going to find out that some of those groups were never allowed to be opened up to begin with. But now that we got a better idea of these two groups, the Irish Mob and the Universal Aryan Brotherhood, let's get into the details of the deadliest fight in Oklahoma prison history. According to the reports of the incident, former DOC Director Robert Payton requested a joint after-action review be conducted by the DOC and the company that manages the private prison, Core Civic. The review team found that the prison to be appropriately staffed at the time of the incident, which is a shocker to me. Usually it's always understaffed facilities is to blame. We need more COs. They're actually saying here they had the appropriate amount. The team also noted that the fight appeared to be spontaneous. However, the report shows that 7 homemade prison weapons were collected as evidence, and a total of 21 weapons were recovered from the Charlie North Housing Unit, which is a unit inside of the Cimarron Correctional Facility. And just like many places across the country, every state has a certain prison that might be more dangerous than others. Well known by the inmates. Well, in prisons, they could have certain cell blocks as well. That's well known for violence. So not every cell block in every prison is as lethal as probably the next one. But it was determined that the inmates tampered with the light fixtures to make these weapons. And that is something that I personally seen on a regular basis in prison. Anything that an inmate can use as a weapon, they're going to do it. And inside the cell, everybody has a little light fixture. And most of the times those lights, they're old, ran down, bolts a little loose. Inmates figure out how to dismantle it, pull off those thin pieces of metal, and make plenty of weapons out of them. In some places, you'll see more locks in a sock because it's actually very hard to find steel, plastic, wood, whatever to make a shank. And only a rare few have them. But I can see these guys breaking down those lights inside their cell and making some very big bone crushers. The review team called for removal of those light fixtures as well as recommending the installation of high-resolution cameras. Keep in mind I said in the beginning that all this was captured on surveillance video. But these cameras that they were using at the time were very old and they liked to pan back and forth so the inmates knew exactly when to hit someone in the blind spot of the camera because you can see it moving back and forth. Now everywhere you go, for the most part, you just see a little round dome. You don't know where it's at, unless you look really close. Some places I've been in, you can tell exactly where that camera's aiming, even behind the tinted dome glass or plastic, whatever it is. Trust me, I used to hawk them things down, man, get as close as I could to it to watch out, or maybe get someone else to watch out for me while we're doing tattoos. It ain't just gangs trying to kill other individuals that watch those cameras. But the video footage recorded of this incident was such low quality that they couldn't even use it in the courtroom. We're going to get to that closer to the end, because a lot of these inmates that were charged for the killing of these guys. Now, the district attorney at the time said that the evidence shows a group of Irish mob inmates coming down the stairs to the bottom of the pod, where other inmates were playing poker, board games, and watching TV. She said the UAB inmates were not congregated together, so that means that they weren't expecting the Irish mob to do this to them whatsoever. Couldn't have been. Because anybody that would have gotten wind that was a part of that organization would have been ready and grouped up. Not to mention weapons blazing, but if I were to guess, they stay strapped in this prison, regardless if they had wind of anything. We'll get there in a second. 2 victims, Kyle Tiffey, 23, and Christopher Tigner, 29, were with the Irish mob, the prosecutor said. The other 2, Anthony Fullwilder, 31, and Michael Edwin Maiden Jr., 26, were with the UAB. The prosecutor said, so apparently at least some UAB got the weapons away from the Irish mob and took 2 of their lives in the attack as well. That's what she's assuming. If I were to guess, though, they already had them weapons on them ready for anything that could come their way. Most gang members, in prisons that have rivals tend to always walk with something. or at least have something close by. And the footage that I was speaking about earlier that was really blurry, I seen it. It was leaked to a non-profit organization that wrote an article about it that showed some photos and stuff. This is actually the inside of that pod before everything took place. I mean, the footage that I seen, even though it's blurry, low quality, you can still see mass amounts of blood. Just imagine being in a pod, all right? Anybody that's been locked up, you could really get a good image of this taking place, but a group of guys coming down the stairs, nobody knows anything's happening. Next thing you know, people getting shanked in the neck all around you, and still nobody knows what's going on. And in just under 2 minutes, the inmates around in the pod that had nothing to do with anything is watching 4 inmates bleed to death right before their eyes. Crazy situation, right? And these are the type of things that I try to bring to your attention. Even though it was on the news and stuff like that, man, it's different when you got an ex-con breaking these situations down a bit, adding more to it than what a 30-second news clip can say. This is the darkness and reality of prison. But after all this took place, from what I read, 7 inmates were charged for the murder. But later on, every last one of them were dismissed because nobody testified. Not one inmate laced up the statement sections, probably because they knew if they did, they were going to be done even worse than what they seen in that pod that day. It says charges have been dismissed against 7 convicts accused of participating in the fatal gang-related riot. And what I'm about to say next is something that even myself was kind of shocked about. But not really, it just depends. It says one of the defendant's court-appointed attorney, Jody Gage, successfully argued to the judge that there was absolutely no evidence at the preliminary hearing to tie Mr. Jordan, his defendant, to this crime. The evidence was a video played without any dialogue. There was no testimony as to who was in the video. Both the video and the still shot are so blurry. The evidence is terrible. It does not address the elements of the crime. The state is claiming guilty by association. The preliminary hearing was devoid of testimony. My client did anything to anyone. The judge agreed, and in his ruling, the case against Jordan was insufficient to proceed to trial. The evidence presented at the preliminary hearing was minimal. I found the video almost worthless. There is no testimony that they saw this defendant except stand at a stairwell. Crazy, huh? So they seen this guy stand at a stairwell in a blurry video, and they're trying to give him murder charges, riot charges, all this stuff. But a court-appointed attorney turned that all around. This is the thing with these court appointments, right? I tell you all the time that they're working with the state. They're no good. And anybody else would tell you the same thing, man. Get a paid attorney. But it's not like that all the time. I've had court-appointed attorneys that rumble. As a matter of fact, they had their own law firms. But in the state of Virginia, every law firm has to do a little bit of pro bono work. I don't know if the law has changed now, but I got a court-appointed attorney that was in this type of situation. He had his own law firm, and he went in there and beat my charges. I was facing over 50 years in prison. And it looks like here in this situation, old Jordan was blessed as well. But it wasn't just him. After the case against Jordan was dismissed by the judge, District Attorney Laura Alston Thomas dropped the charges against the other 6 convicts. At the time of the filing of the charges, the investigative report confirmed each defendant could be identified as a participant in the riot by employees of the correctional facility. A critical witness, a guard, in an unrelated matter was charged with bringing contraband into the prison. So that in itself right there is going to ruin his credibility. It is what it is, man. It's 2 gangs going at it with each other. And I'm sure both of them, even though the UAB wasn't prepared for the attack, they knew that sooner or later they're probably going to come into a situation where their life could be taken. That's just what you got to expect when you become a gang member in prison. But think twice before you say, yeah, I would love to be with y'all guys, man. You slap me a tattoo right here so everybody can see it. But let me know in the comment section below how you felt about this video. And like I said, if you were locked up in Oklahoma and have a little more 2 cents to add to this story, we would love to hear it. In the meantime, though, stay tuned. As always, I got plenty more content coming your way. I'm thinking maybe we're going to jump into Oklahoma one more time to speak about that incident with the Puerto Ricans. I've been doing some reading on that, and it's absolutely wild. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, until the next time, y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.